5 200 197 getumi mutujona iska mutujojo kuruga nkima enthongi nkima ikwena mpwe na nkurukini mutuju kuonekana na kilo emo kilo ijiri wholesale supermarket arakunthomba kuthoroke gitaga shopping gaku kinya wome umara no mwire akwenderia mutuju nice na ruri gwa kuriaga kimaka nice na kinya muchere jombishori nice rice millers moya nibu bathiaga nkurukie nusu ya muchere jura juri magwanterira kowe na assurance at grade 1 ukethirwa ukiona muchere jo muthongi wa kinyara nice digital city moya kwatu kenya no kwenda gwika kiatho ningi antwara kwina kieni gikithongi mono bieni bia mirano bia biatho na kinya ukethira wa kunogoka kana kinya ikundi mbuge ibo kwenda arabo mba kuthira buge kaka muchemanio kwina conference hall irio ibi thongi mikawa ni thatu ni juko kathura jiro kwenda Shell petrol station nizire chio the customer service ni top notch no kethira gikinera na nandi kwira kinya service bay arangare kumba kuthirwa igitegerwa unogoki
ni thaijiri kilokete ndege 12 muthikiria karibu sana kile mabango ya chanchamoka baraba utona kile TV mukwe mweka na kile mitandao karibuni sana na kithurano kia by election kile istigo 26
26
yeah
mimi najua mbere
kure na bio bunge bitandatu na kure na 17 bya MCA na kure na kimwe kia senator.
Okay.
Now you know.
Okay.
Na mbere actually as you say Karimi ni kara ya subnational election.
Kabisa.
No ntu inko meote mtu wote kuminya mbere no tiba kulinga.
Bacho kama itando imbo danceable.
Na dire kwa bonao. You know kara ya kiduro yakabochi ndanirete kya rice. No ntu antobaraba kinyaba nao including deputy president na Gachagua mutugeri wa kiama kia DCP kana former DP ibo paint mbere no thia kara ya some national election ikubwetheka kuo so kiuria ni do even tuwitia kithurano tutiere mwaka yumwe na mieri 8
wakae tu hivyo bila mbunge sheria na sheria baba katiba na katiba
Eric, do you think maybe at some point dobati kwa lula watho bo ibundu rasio tuko ngori atire Eric you know resources na time irayo tumeka you know resources in terms of better na human resource iracho tumeka mbere north Magarini Malava Kasipul na huko ungikuonde tuite kweri kithurano mwaka yumwe na mieri 8 because antobaki nyane atabakethia kana bakambirio campaign la ringi 2027.
Okay, Bwaga Martin kanchoke nkatho county na Martin otubombora kanyaru kinoro kethia miru beto Martin kambuke bantu za tonete no tubokuthirwa issue ira turai no ABC just taken wrong kukara mono kuthira tutombo kuthuna commission na kwa anayashimwa ba betirwe na kwingi bangi ba thurirwe I think orampo bago emphasize on that kikiure yaku issue ira tubatikutha tukiara area ni wastage area president atukinyitie non tokeja kuthira mubunge na atari na thuri ku represent uteaja county athurwo kai ajukua kithirikari create an avenue ya by election non already it's a wastage bet ukatekera nya schedule ya ABC bechire kutumira for example bere it's close to 200 million Koran an MP or 130 senten kona na area senator no tumira almost 300 million schedule era riku ya mbecha nandi utumiki bo thuku muno bwa mbecha cia thirikari na vision ya Singapore tijika twakinanira kethero issue is wastage it's mtu akathuganira rukiri no tubakwenda go punish see case in example mbere north ira na nditu kugana nditu kwariria na antu bali uri tukarakale mono campaign iri ngongero ya time twamenya kaithogi
especially kwa nyama meru
kaithogi you know Eric jokingly tumwara wa nonto wa modende nwe preferred candidate wa UDA na president then nwe abati kunenkera tikie kia CS
Antoine Nkiraruku.
Yeah,
No ketho yuko no kia Kenya beje nyingi sana na
kabisa in terms of nya resource liko tumeka thaa hizi na plus nya time na period ya ku but kudhuro kwa Ruku kutonya thirikari-ine yari by design president. Why? Rikana tuchoke kanyuma au for out ya president na Muturi yari ukinya level nengi ya gwitana nguo ya unrepairable ya gwitana nguo na plus politically na ndi president na agenda imwe kumfundisha lesson either kumudhiria politically. One was to set the only MP against his party leader kugeria kuona ketha influence yawe kumudhiria na kunegotiate because last tina an MP party tina MP nyakethore na MC of course kuna weight itumbo carry lakini keja kuthore na MP amwitira yare kugeria kuona inyawe kari atia mashinani. But something else it's coming up. There is ugategera by election nchi ndithitwe cha UDA president na mbita kutrimana na almost aspirant Baubangi in the tombo trimana na homoded. He tells you that one influence na kwenda kumenya party leader pira ya party leadership yawe itongeretwe deputy Kidiki rikana mbere governor is a chairperson na Ruku nande na kwenda kuona influence yawe na Ruku kati ya Ruku na Muturi ketha bombo mudhiria politically. You also want to it's an XLE election here on it's really want to mirror on oragwa akarwa influence ya 2027. Go president did it deliberately. He don't want to involve himself with siasa eneze wanataka kumpatia macho onere na atabomba ku consolidate kana influence keto it's do or die for Temodande. Actually it's do or die for governor Kidiki na Ruku nyawengo nontu
so aliwadhuru under the bus akawaambia guys hapa ndio nawapimia
kabisa delivery yake because both thirikari na opposition ni ya kaba kwana ni kadhari kile campaign ya mbere in particular so no choria tre who is struggling ni Gachagua no tunawire na lokete Mount Kenya kana ni Gachagua kana ni Kindiki oroku atenwe
kingpin
the highest
ranking
political leader.
You see, I think Kindiki has had time to prove himself. Gachagua is having his time running around. You see, having fun. Enjoy. But you see, there is a lot in terms of being a deputy president. Bwana camping na ntuko chionde. You see, being a deputy president is a very high ranking office. Utubako dore ento rene around. You see, we are rowing himself to an MP seriously go campaign an MP. An MP is a really small seat comparing to responsibility there as a deputy president. But simply because you know about pressure that you need to prove influence ya kwa kariata na dikana mbere arere it's a neighbor to Tharaka. Sasa we nyumbani ni kwako. Gachagua is having his time and really people nambako resonate na madhina jarajario ko Gachagua is speaking what people are saying but kia maana mono ni outcome. You see outcome outcome ya election is 20 ya Thursday 29 Thursday 27 ikaita mantu jada Martin Zairi whether president was right to appoint Gachagua as a mobilizer. Two, whether Kidiki was really a strategist background. Kedo we did it. But now you need to realize, people are saying Kidiki was more a strategist at the boardroom and Gachagua was more of ground. Na no kuonora Gachagua is pouring ground na mashinani na kuomba kumobilize. We talk of Gachagua Kidiki being someone who was strategizing politics na kupanga. Ikaja kuthonangu atu mbere kupanga boardroom siasa ya constituency then of course how going forward do I really did kuna mistake that did because of also though president also need to kudin the malabujawe whether he was right having Gachagua as a deputy and he did mobilized na now come back mobilized ko itamira to if Kidiki wins then he still enjoys economy na winning it will determine na margin ireka win if he really win a margin nene mono still Kidiki will have an influence in it but if Gachagua akeja kuthura margin tenene still ukamenya there was influence etirikari na machinery plus Gachagua being outside then still Gachagua enjoy either Gachagua rules to determine the margins ireka win kada tenene then of course
and yes. You know on the flip side ndichioria tere Gachagua na ara create narrative ya nimelock mlima teu na uga mlima iko kwa serikali where does this leave Gachagua non tunarare au kireba tu eturaizira tuizi kire outside mlima where does this leave Gachagua
but Gachagua dakura Gachagua is having a fun anajira nimekuja kufungua mlima mukule isi
nimefungua kiosk
but it's true kama amefunga urara ingite alilock mlima then naka lose then of course it will send a message that pia president will have his akadhana easy time in terms of influence urakomba kubanga siasa yewe going to be a hit kiri camp ya Gachagua but definitely if Gachagua also omba ku win na message raga atuma then the president need to rethink about the mountain kana the Mount Kenya East as kana you also create another by election because president has a time in a miaka iri you would end up creating another by election to measure the influence yawe
maybe a bigger position or a
county level especially senator especially senate kuona nande how influence we carry because purely it's a written test because 2027 no kategero rea a reception we are between 20 campaign towards 2022 campaign na nande map you graph you ni matin politically ya weni na mimono ko nande you also need a time where to test ground we carry ata so that can come up with note to plan on 2027 politics. Actually, this purely it's a 2027 matrix. Yes.
Yes. Now that ni matrix ya 2027. Yes. Kuribuo elections iji wore yete karangi kuebuchi ya create rivalry kana division kana mpatho atateka Mount Kenya East na West because it seems like so don't bwa Professor Kindiki na Rigathi Gachagua urabete tenende bokara yaka bakunurete maori against each other is full throttle especially Kindiki na na ukara yaka akwira Gachagua straight now lately before this na kara yaka kuitha ithania kidogo lakini dainde ndo ya bobelini yaka yejete hadharani kinyama nto yao mwira ukicheza na mimi nitakuvua nguo nitakunyoa
mimi sirika yako
mimi unajua yes in future after kithurano ki kwibukumba kwithura kwina rukuo atateka East na West
yes most definitely Komira straight non to now when siasa hizi between the mountain the Mount Kenya East ikaumira clearly non to ikeja kwithura kanywa kauga kugeranirwa na ndwa yewe ya kanywa ndwa yewe ya kwithura nande bate kwiganwa ikaumira very clear in 22 going for 2027 non to the current now deputy president akangiria ku consolidate and bawe na versus it will be now we na team yawe versus Gachagua na team yawe na Gachagua of course tuje mostly umite the other side now ikethorena ikonani ya rukuru nene mono but most important kiragi ikaumira non to bokwithirwa ndoeji of course there is bitterness between Gachagua na Kindiki in terms of someone no mujukirite kiawe na kinyari kana rira Gachagua atarirwe Kidikinya watari comfortable. Remember he left Karen na disappear. He went later, he came up na presa kulikuwa na kauchungu. See, you can see there's humanly there's a pain. Na the moment aliingia bwana na Gachagua na itoome, you see also Gachagua carry a lot of pain. Tunyawe na privilege ile na slippery. Ko this gentleman is mwe na onge are there a platform ya vent out. Let me say kila mtu amepewa nafasi ya kufungua roho kuvent na ndio nio na actually then nayo Martin ikareta mwananchi rote kwerwa hao watu ni stress zao wanaragu wanatoana, lakini ndio of course to trickle down to mwananchi who doesn't understand this is purely political rivalry in terms of who took the other positions. Yes,
you know woni akiri kwere mbira atre this one might be a blessing these guys, especially kire Antoba Mount Kenya West. For the longest Antoba Mount Kenya East iba shua ibedre toba kibu ikuringa na Kenya na Mario ya Tongeria ibedre toba kibu ya kabedra bari under the shadows chia West. So if a rift happens kire East na West non toba kidurano ke especially kukia kwithwa kindikina wa muthende weba achinda kidurano kira kia mbere, I feel like East kiethwa ere wikombwa kuma kiri shadows chia West, and now bena kanywa kakwaria, you know, speaking for themselves bate kwaria bare ya kiri mahara bare ya Mount Kenya East.
You see, Lifty Martin is always a creation of elected MPs.
Yeah.
Because ikeja kodoro ibo Martin tugaga atokaleri atugedi atokaleri. Then where do we get ourselves a formation ekodoro batu tukomatuna voice. Martin batu tutatu kamerua. Non to buy interest cheto ite kwa line. Pure I don't blame the West Martin. Dinai batu tunga tuireta ira Martin.
Batu
atore. Non tuito tuwete kaida kutumika bodho. When we elected MPs, bageta nara they serve their own interest. They don't remember that bati ku consolidate kanako karamwe bomba ku negotiate on and recall kagwitia rights chao kanako tetera mwananchi. Mountain bachoka the other side bacho boga inyaketha bangaratanete Martin kana bethurana boga twambe tuchoke nyuma ya tent tuonero tukuhumara. What happened to our tuirebe lakini on to rift yetu muembere mutharaka muimenti still tutukwenda kuhereano ati tureno kara turuga
no
superior the other one as I know Martin, but we purely don't blame the West. Purely rift is na the nature on the but tungo tuireta as a community because one tutukwenda kuwatanira. There was a time back in the days to enda kudura kwina tureamwe tuwatanirite as a community as Mount Kenya East to the twina urare rumwe na turare behind someone urokomba ku negotiate, lakini ande sikaanza tuetana ande tuachokanja. There is issue ya boundary that cannot be resolved. There is issue ya Ruaria Ruga Martin Muembere Mutharaka. They don't want to associate ourselves as Timu Meru, Timu Mbere na atuko na kumenya atuko na kui Mutharaka. You see those purely politics, lakini ukategera Murang'a, ukategera Murang'a, ukategera Nyeri, ukategera Kiambu, ukategera Kirinyaga, but then hakumenya whether bara ya Kirinyaga kana bara ya Kiku
lakini bena dialect.
Yes, bena direct chao, but purely they come together. But kwenda ndoa urika kuigwa ndoa mbere urika ndakugwa mbere Kirinyaga ndoa na Nyeri kana Kirinyaga na uturikana bare amwe ko Martin historia kuga it will come out like to be a blessing. Purely not there. Usually kinyamu skuma jojo kudura Kidiki one of the highest ranking member. Martin, do you really feel it within the circles here this time? Did they really and to embrace that? The other question, that's a question I want to pose. No kuona our community iki embrace kana the structures cha mashinani chiki embrace kaimo gwatira urakobati it tells you something.
Maybe ka Ameru bonde, you know, Ameru County na Ameru Tharaka Nithi County kabethiri to bari mpiene for the longest time ever na thai maybe kaba tio chiti ke kethro ibo bene tiki
iketho kirejere nja
yeah kaba tio iketho kirejere mochi so maybe just maybe kabatira what is that word? It has not hit them at the bena itiki and deputy president na batekumenya maybe how big itiki and deputy president kiana na how influential itiki kiri.
Then the inference, does it trickle down to mwananchi? The inference that carries with the office.
Mwananchi wewe mwanao
no tetikiri.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Eric kuri mtu wo kwira kindiki bro nikaita ndika kuibanga ithira wina kiama yaku even through a proxy. Yeah. No to by election ye either way obura yete karangi either atsinde kana atsindwe it will mean something.
Yes.
So nabati kuibanga would you okona kanya no mwire bro
one kirampo bakuga Martin impugira kairi it can determine the margin that the two winning because someone amekuja na influence yake from the other side wao uko nyumbani the margin will tell a story will tell a clear whether the influence area ukarite wengwa because I feel like they're struggling na kete kudora kako struggle they know na particular thing going forward in terms of how akubanga politics cha negotiation in 2027 because kuna parties zingi iko media mata kitikiria gwete. There's now tutena baba na the ODM feel like in entitlement thirikari ije nontone imentindi ne thirikari ikutha ije yani bari ugabo ikaja kutho te baba kana kiama kia ODM thirikari ringire ire overthrow ko they feel like kuna entitlement ebo could declare that kitreba kwenda na two if Kidiki doesn't solidify ground here you will tend to lose in terms of co-negotiate to be the next deputy unless in 2027 the president now decide no to kwenda ku lose support now he want to broaden the executive jora kwa arena BBI now bring on something that will create positions for kugeriata ku bareta level ne jora kari. Yes.
So kuina we mtu kwira kindi kiatri bro iyuna political party ku otherwise
kitaumana huko mbele.
I think there are people who are supposed to advise. To me we have political parties Meru nyingi lakini tutena is there any darkanini ntegwetikia na nonga embu where we have bus na Kivuti now Meru we have I think 5 political parties ntijina hata kukodhera kwena one umbrella that respectfully appoints Kidiki as is probably party leader. It's also important to siasa na Chio Martin jo kuga chibanga wana habrera turite Meru ara turirite ikoja kuthirwa tutomba kuthotena habrera emwe a political party twari na bus back in the days ireomba kuthirwa ina influence eco negotiate it's true region ine gwitia iri behind an umbrella so that tomba kuthwa kwena force but that will determine how we now rally the ground kana grassroots kana wananchi to buy the idea kenda withdraw nontu Martin ikeja kuthura outcome ya mbere election ikeja kuthura igeta to Kashagwa side then Kidiki even to form a political party will be a problem because kedha watu komba ko deliver but I wish Kidiki would have run away from this political party campaign unindingi uga campaign chambere you would have run it from back kana uratuga Kidiki was the leader strategist that atagomba chini ya maji because wekwireta siasa enezi na chindwe Martin will send a message. I would wish that Kidiki would have steps aside leave governor Silisi Barire na team
akodhura ni abunge bodo Mount Kenya East
abera baburi ndenda bonchiomeria ntikonda kuthora different train kana kuthora ndeaja no ntuiko akana ntaka imagine Gachagua na Kindiki uba kwa kana ntaka thaiz na unfortunately it goes against Kindiki.
But
Gachagua has
you
nothing
see,
to
Kindiki wants to carry the glory.
But you urenge carry the glory when you marshal your troops.
Yeah.
Tiko kwa kuthithia the tiko kwa everything miaka na ndega Kindiki no gukiria wengwa no tethore
kana maybe carry boss wewe hapa ndio nakuwekea kwa
I feel even not the boss I feel people around the presidency. You see now Faruk Mariako huko and then huko azaenda na nokategera huku. I wish Kindiki would have left it to, because kwenda bwana a week bwana.
But you see, no mbue kinya achako kinyawe na feel itako manage region era uaneke no tunaua ati na lokete kiri mara. You see, President Baringo akishire utemtu wewe utisha candidate wa UDA other than candidate wa Kawira Mwangaza.
Yes.
So
wapi Baringo
Nimeona
hata kuna candidate mbere
na candidate nyambere. So hakikisha mbere akwebelia itile bila bimba kwethera birio one of the biggest Gideon Moi amo manage na hakikisha the ground yewe itena campaign chia yontitu kuona mbere is too much hyped and all that. So kwake ground yewe ne bui. So maybe either Gachagua kana Kindiki they were supposed to ensure this also as well. Baka hakikisha ground ne ko tena machindano ya kuira ya kuwate mwankena thai tori some 3 days to election campaign katsete te kuthira na kote kuonekana ne ya kakwe wore urorongi. You know they are at 50%
kabisa. Ikiango Martin for Kindiki to ensure that he enjoys the power, the privilege, he would have marshaled the MPs, the mountain, na state agencies but around that mimi sionekani huko. We nganganeni, you require everything. Ni wapange imwene ground because you see is the highest most ranking officer.
So he
says. Ko information ranking you ne ko nania ya some he can trust ya people around him that he trusts, because utemba ko dare mutongeria utina nto bako kwatarite ko the structure jo president adire kupanga niite huyu ni mpange ko one that tells you there are trust issues around ntumbo gwete kioran this thing. Now how do you now directly or lose someone who will trust you as well to run the entire Mount Kenya East or the Ranja Mount Kenya as a whole. This is a message in the name of to me, Martin, but I hope he wins. I'm praying that Kindiki for the first time he carries.
For the first time.
For the first time, because now he want to, he is campaigning for someone. You see now, not because I don't have campaign the tongue. Now, for the first time, Nyaka to know the background strategies of current president. Now, for him, no know I'm with a good everything on a but if he doesn't win, Martin, I don't know why take on Martin Roario Keja Kuwatanra.
Na ibukwenda kuria next Eric Atre generally kithurano kia by election yeji especially mbere ya eka affect bwana atia kura cia 2027, you know, generally impact yayo kethura ya natia 2027, you know, kando na perception ire mba kwethura ire out there, reality ground ine kethura kariata, you know, antubarabo mba kwethura either passporta Kindiki akeyo chindori what baeta na antobaba support Gachagua na abakeyo chindwa kana bakeyo chinda. Either way, how much will it affect kithurano kia 2027 na backing ya either side kethura ki affect hata, you know, awesomely. Mbere ocho kire kiure kiu kandika ni mutegeri wa Wero TV na muthikiri wa Wero FM ati machindano ya Safaricom shangwe at 25 ni ete tena mbere na ora otumira M-Pesa kuno boko ithro ukiona kanya kanene ka kwithro hichindira mamilioni ya mbecha ya reo chindano kwina millionaires 25 bage ithro bakiona mbecha bakiona mamilioni ya mbecha rira machindano yake ithro ya kirika na itare onderera gutuma mbecha ukilukira M-Pesa automatically no kuona entry entry imwe ya kwithirwa yukuma kiri Shangwe at 25 draw na utuma mbecha niyo njira ira mpothu buru ya kwithwa we participate kana ukiparticipate ntuko chionthe kiri mashindano ya na customer watuma mbecha ukilukira M-Pesa app kana star 334 hash ni kwa multiple entries chekwithwa yukuma ontuko utuma mbecha ni kutetheria uwe kukwithwa yuqualify kinya kiri rewards ingi kana bia bingi bidabi kuonekana ontuko either bundles kana cashbacks iromba kwithirwo kiawa na weekly kana okiumia akenya ngiri 3 ni bakwithirwo baichindira ngiri 10 kire machindano ya ukilukira utuma mbecha either utuma kire family yaku kana kire achore kana kinya kire biashara lipa na M-Pesa kana inio buy goods and pay bill kinya ni ukwa kanya kwithirwo yukuma kire machindano ya na ukithirwo kiona kanya ga kwa millionaire no tayari millionaires ni bambirite kwithirwo betumiru kuri na millionaire omoyaro ndiguru ne Kenya owetwa Yvonne Wanjiko kumanterera chekiambu ni umwe baraba chindire milioni 1 na nkuluki ethirwa kinenkirwa mbecha ingi ngiri mana elia 50 ya kwithirwa itithina mbere murandi yura kwenda nturene yo na umenya Wanjiko ataetherio ntubonene kaurere bundles ukilukira M-Pesa na imbado ya thiringi 20. So pia wewe wena chance 20 bob only na ethirwa ichindira thiringi milioni 1 tayari na ethirwa akitumirwa a simple transaction na yothira yimutethia na ushindi bwake ne ndini bwithiritwe bukionania bura Safaricom miaka 20 yayo ithiritwe iri committed kana bethiritwe bakiritaniria bunene kwithirwa bakialulwa mauturo yantu so kinya wetumira M-Pesa ruari tuma mbecha lipa na M-Pesa lipa kwa pochi la biashara no kethirwa kinya we ichindira kiri Safaricom Shangwe at 25 ni tha ijiri kilokita ndaika mirongo ina na isile kiri mubango ya chanchamuka so Eric impact ya kithurano kia ya nate
Martin, Bugira Kareni ni X-ray what will happen in 2027 but first the government, the president, kana executive, the national executive, ikomba kudhorina opportunity to reorganize. Not only dirikari, kana kuretange on board. One, if we likely lose Mount Kenya, we also will be likely to lose in terms of strength, kana force ileke itumika in terms of development nambi. But we tokomba kuona, for example, not only in Mbere, in Mount Kenya, Kenyatta gave a story Urago Karanara Malava between the lift Kenya Nara Kasipul kuna influence in Monoyo Mbakoleta kona niatre if a dependent candidate akawin Kasipul then it tells you that place may open. Martin, even though we attribute the former, the late Baba as a Democrat, atombere ko open space region hiraumite because he didn't want them to control it. Lakini if an independent candidate wins Kasipul, then you see ukona niya kuina nande people now have right to vote whoever they want, not necessarily the party lines. Tukezaza ojo in Nyanza na Rift na rakina the deputy the speaker umite na now the current cabinet prime cabinet umite no konora baskumi ikeja kudhura bakalus their candidate nyabona area then now the executive will start now looking at a way to consolidate because it's purely succession politics. Tomba kuona result chia hizi tukomna kuambiria kuwa bakaambiria ku exit kuwa kamba kwa ambassadors nandi na bange ba waziri non to you want to bring people now on board based on the result kana hamwe nande kureta ku point another senator to the government so that it creates an environment ya kudhurande the campaign. Also outcome ya party strength kia makirena kyo da iji you want us to know kia makikiri ageta kyo towards 2027 kanaga ka rebrand or get someone a political party. It's something I think the executive the president omba kudhura gete kaira na resort chia by election iji ika rugura kana ika create message nene mono whether truly mash so iretumirie thirikari kana resource ira tukwirwa allegedly they are used itumikite either here kana nara Malava resources kana iritumikite will that resource ika attribute towards people voting kana ika gutumira into kana ku inducement ikomba wananchi turn away from what they believe now. It's better to vote in someone they really believe kana no mwankam to influence towards to vote for certain path. Ko visitors but on the twin the within Mbere bangibeti the western bangibeti the coast non tinyakwe na another direction coast ya Magarini ko ikedro ina it's a litmus test kana an x-ray on how to plan kana go strategies going forward in 2027. Ko it's a way to measure amidst challenges ila thirikari nayo in terms of trust, in terms of their political umbrella ila thirikari nayo ila kuinsist nayo na nayo gakuruka nayo 2027 will really be the same nontuga we atakuja. He doesn't worry about 2027, he worries now Kenya ikethoreri no ora gwitanguke. Now you will stand up a chance kuri-examine kana kuri-examine how akomba kuri-align mantu jawe kana thirikari yawe towards 2027 so that to appeal kana ku appease ananchi mathina jaranjo na nyathina ira tunacho Martin in terms of resistance ya policy driven ya thirikari ije by election ichombo change the way approach area president Mukuthurenio ena yono ntuba msimamo jo munene ena juu ombo change towards 2027 at least kugeria ku ananchi bone una go change ya nonto policy ira Martin ira inyingi adiditi na tuge amejiskuma kana amejiskumia wananchi na ananchi bona je kaba skumire to murigo jojo ko towards 2026 na result ile komeka omba go change ya nande kuhiz kidogo kurais kidogo towards 2027.
So Eric, you know, post Moi barabedri to bari deputies kana vice presidents ni antibedri to bari na siamabio. So president Ruto omba kudhura bwana atia akamenya ati kidhura kiendeke na a political party. Would this be tantamount to como challenge kana korea kumwathikira because lately nikwithirite kwina muskumo ywa atongere babethire baki manch kinyabiama ANC tayari kwina muskumo kya fordira ya takinyethire kikuma kire UDA you know folding these parties and then here is kindikinwe akwirwa na mbire kiama if is a comes kire pressure yina akambiria kiama kyake ithuria president bwana ate but remembering Ruto wena arena kiama kyake ari deputy wa Uhuru.
Yes.
Eitara Kibaki wa Malwa na arena kiama kyake.
Yes.
Kalonzo Musyoka na arena kiama kyake. Yes. Akia vice president wa Mzee Kibaki. So how much will this anger President Ruto kukeya kwithirwa either kiama fulani tu kinyambasi kikonominate kindikiari party leader kana kindikia kambire kiama kyake either directly kana through a proxy. How much will this anger the president?
I katoge history ya Ruto in short that Ruto autonya is since ambira 2022 are plan ya wewe kudhiria other political parties. He started with kabisa because he didn't want a party that challenged where President Nyakethora Martin, you've interviewed him several times. Now we've seen him interview to na
but we arenda opposition strong.
Martin, when he started Akotonya, he didn't have numbers. Remember, Tarina exact numbers, but he now started wooing other political parties kenanganya the numbers in the National Assembly, every majority. Now that thing went to the Eta Kotini, but he ended up collapsing all the political parties. Force Mudavadi, ANC, he corrupts. ageria ku the speaker nyawe na mwirite bweta mutua na gerete kung'ang'ana kiawe na gerete gukorapsi gikolema but president remember in Jubilee na gerete kuga warenda a formidable opposition kutho kwina kiama kibiri that kwina kiama kede ura developed countries like US kwina Democrat na Republican though other political parties nyana ochiku in true Martin ikeja kuthora kidiki aka form a political party na nkwire Martin ugategera ma-DVD gukora Mudavadi Mudavadi aku kiama kiawe kuthiria aku collapse kiama kiawe kia join there was also allegation that he formed another political party as a backup plan ko ginyapa ba ku collapse party chao iba kugire kuchwa backup plan no tupate gwitikia na ikitumio kona natembea didi na geretie ku bathambia nao no ntubate nandi prime cabinet atina kiamba ikyo au karakyo ni kya gweta kone goshiti yakyo kito minandi supported the candidate wa thirikari at least omba ku revive influence yawe ni kito mikona shughuli chingi lakini ikaja kuthura now kidiki akamwa kuforma proxy party kana a political party na mwa kuthura aibange ura agachwete kingi no to going forward president I think levels trust
either way tikiake kiri at a risk either with kiama kana kubwire because ODM ni bawire bakia ku negotiate bakenda deputy na do kile siasa chetu project ile toikari buka kubwire coalition then mutumba kwithira buri munene na munini owe bonde baumete kiamene kemo Diana kile Facebook tukidhiria riwatiri watching out achuka massive indicates position as visibly been lowered by shifting power centers in Kenya Kwanza and his reduced influence is now showing even at the grassroots. If he fails to deliver for Mbeere North, the political cost will be heavy, loss of political trust and a weakened bargaining seat nationally. Meanwhile, if Gachagua manages to push Karish to victory in Mbeere North, it will solidify his grip on the region and boost his claim to the Mount Kenya kingpin crown. In politics, territory is power, and Mbeere North is becoming a battleground that will define who truly commands the mountain. I can't agree more.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you
very much. Message ya kwatu to Mbeere and the election that go happen. The best thing siku moja tu into kwemwe na tondere ya maisha. Well, the best thing is that mtu atokeleze piga kula yako na uende nyumbani because there is no need ya kuharm your neighbor. There is no need ya kukosana na Martin kana Martin Yurongi no ntumbu siasa edira si mtarudi tu kuromba na chumbe kuendanderia na maisha gender. The best thing is that wacha siasa igatuathura na nyamiru wacha turi the best things wacha kila mtu ongee chenye nafikiria na mind yawe respectively with kuringana katiba orekari that you heshima ku ithiraira kana itie kwe ithiraira ale ongea ambiriti. We've seen what happening in Antobagerana Maiga na Bangi Baka Rana na Martin ikeja kwethura tukenderea 2027 will be worse.
So, quickly, with one year candidate wa kawira performate ya Mbeere North na Baringo.
One it's the first time for ntrona nyawe patiri na gito bachura kura no I don't know why because nyawe na batikanya gito ko popularize kiama kiawe because it's first time for having a political party. You would have an opportunity to go around to campaign to popularize because pure nyake thero ate perform boyga it's a starting point that you have candidates now know, there are people who trust your party that bako get ticket ya party yaku. Go is something arengi tumira an opportunity to go and popularize and at least go tumira nafasi. Johora Gachagua probably akodhithia kuambira kiama kyao. Ko to be we don't expect much in a political party, but I feel arengi tumira an opportunity go and popularize a party.
Yes. Ukedwa ni Honorable James Kimathi.
Asante sana, thank you.
Asante sana. Na urina karimu yao, we are some curious, very curious human beings.
Ile curiosity yetu imerudi.
We really can't wait. Tueterete sana Friday tariki 29. Yes. Eagerly, curious.
The pain of watching by elections in another county.
Order.